It was a cold but sunny January day in Middle Tennessee when I was at a beautiful park just outside of Nashville with a dear friend of mine at the time. We were doing what you do at the park. We were going for walks, swinging, playing a little ball, just talking a lot, enjoying the sunshine, even though it was cold, like I mentioned. And as the day concluded, after several hours of conversing and having a great time, we headed back to our respective cars. And as I got in my car, got my phone out, I noticed I had a voicemail from my wife. And she said, "Steve, I don't know where you're at, but I know who you're with." And she said, "When you get home, you need to be prepared to talk about our marriage. Because if you're not, I'm contacting a divorce attorney in the next 48 hours." Now that I have your attention this morning, good morning. My name is Steve Wormer, and I'm a kingdom relationship coach, specifically helping married couples save their marriage before it's too late. Obviously, you can tell from my introduction that I made some mistakes. And this is as good a time as any to tell the obvious that I was involved in a multi week emotional affair with a coworker. Obviously, I made some very poor choices that led to that voicemail that I described. And obviously, I don't have all the time here with you this morning to talk about all the mistakes I made. Thank goodness that I don't have that time. But I made a lot of poor ones. But you know what I've learned along the way? We all make poor choices from time to time. We all make mistakes. We're human. And when it comes to marriage, I believe that's the society that we live in now has dumbed down marriage. It's not a priority to a lot of people anymore. The media makes fun of it. The television shows that are on the air these days, they demean marriages, they demean men, and it's not good. And so I want to bring back the unity of marriage. I want to bring back the priority of marriages. It's important to God, so it's important to me. And so, what I'd like to share with you today is a couple of mistakes that I've made along the way, but I think they're common mistakes that we all tend to make. And the first mistake is we take one another for granted. I think we just do that in general in society. We take people for granted, but specifically talking about the union of marriage, we take our spouse for granted, unfortunately. And so we recognize that, and we recognize that most, if not all of us, at one time or another do that. But what's the antidote? What's the fix? Well, step one is we've got to learn to choose gratitude. We have to learn to choose gratitude where it concerns our spouse. We have to choose gratitude daily and appreciate the person that God has blessed us to be with forever on planet Earth. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just not smart enough, talented enough, fill in the blanks, for my mind to hold more than one dominant thought at a time. Actually, I think that's most of us, right? If I'm anxious, if I'm not trusting, if I'm doubting, if I'm frustrated, whatever the emotion may be, that's going to dominate my mindset. But what I've learned along the way is I have a choice. I can be in control of my mindset. I can't be in control of all my circumstances, but I can choose my mindset. And so if I'm being critical of my spouse, if I'm taking her for granted, if I'm complaining about the way she does something or I would do it different, that's not healthy thinking for me. I need to choose gratitude because gratitude will then become my dominant thought, and it will push out all that other stuff that I mentioned earlier: anxiety, not trusting, worry, frustration, anger. But I have to choose it. And when I choose it, that word "when" is small, but it's big, right? When I choose it, it has all kinds of benefits. It has emotional benefits. It has physical benefits. It has spiritual benefits. But I have to choose it. And I am convinced with all my heart that after 15 years of being a minister and after 29 years of marriage, that gratitude is most definitely the great equalizer to the things that ail our hearts and our minds. It has a way of right sizing things that are going wrong, but we have to choose it. No question about it. I'll tell you a story that happened recently. I was preparing for a speaking trip out in Texas a few weeks ago. And you know how when you're about to take a trip, you guys all know how this works, right? You've got this long list of to do, right? You've got deadlines, you've got your normal routine, and you've got your family you got to take care of, and then you're having to pack, and you have to pay attention to your itinerary for the trip, the additional PowerPoint and slides, and the talk, and hotel reservations and car rental if you've got that, all that stuff. You know how it works. Okay. So my to-do list was long, and of course, the time to do it was shrinking. And I had a specific errand I needed to run for the family that involved me going to the county clerk's office where I live here in Tennessee. And my wife was nice enough to fill out the proper paperwork for me because she knew my to-do list was so long. And she filled out the paperwork for me, and I went to the county clerk's office. And I knew there was going to be a line this particular day. I looked at the line. I said, "Oh boy, this may not be good." And I got up in front of the clerk about an hour and 15 minutes after I waited. And she looked at my paperwork and my driver's license and all that good stuff. And after about looking at it for 3 or 4 minutes, she says, "The paperwork's filled out incorrectly, sir. I can't accept this." And of course, naturally, I wanted to fix it on the spot. I said, "Was there anything I can do to fix it?" And she said, "No, you can't do anything here with it. You're going to have to recreate the document from scratch before we can accept it. You'll have to come back." And I was like, in my heart, I was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me. I leave to go out of town in 4 days. I've got a ton of stuff to do. I'm driving home. I feel the irritation starting to creep in my heart towards my wife because she filled out the paperwork wrong." And I'm like, I just spent an hour and 15 minutes of my valuable time, and I didn't even get the goal completed that I set out to do. So I was wrestling in my heart. I was like, you know what? This is another perfect example of where I must choose gratitude. And so, how did I do that? I said, you know what? She was trying to help me. My wife is my helper. She was doing the best she could in that given moment. And we've had a lot going on with our family, a lot of pressure, some family issues going on from a couple of months ago. She's carrying a lot. She doesn't need that extra pressure from me of when I get home telling her how this made me feel and how upset I am with her, because that's making it all about me. I said, I need to choose gratitude that she gave it her best attempt. She wasn't trying to make a mistake. We're human. We all make mistakes. I mean, I just told you guys at the beginning of this talk what a huge mistake I made, and that story I told you guys was after 7 years of marriage. So I needed to extend grace to her. And that started with me choosing gratitude for the woman she is, the wife she is, the patient woman she is. And that gratitude shifted my perspective. And you know what? She was able to recreate the document. The funny part of the story is a couple days later, I took my 14-year-old son with me back to the county clerk's office, and the paperwork was accepted. That particular day, we ended up waiting 3.5 hours And of course, my son is hungry and he's being impatient and he had things he had to do after this. And it was a great time for me to be able to teach him in that long line. We get to choose gratitude. It could be worse. We're inside. We have a roof over our head. It's cold out there right now. It's drizzling out there right now. We get to choose gratitude. It's always the best choice for sure. Another thing that I would like to say to you guys is I had to extend my wife forgiveness in that moment. And I did that. And when we combine the two, forgiveness and grace, it's amazing the results. And gratitude helps keep the love alive. Never forget that. Gratitude helps keep the love alive. Now, a second mistake that I think a lot of us make, and I certainly have made it, is we have poor communication. Um, if I was to poll 100 married couples and I asked them their top 3 issues in their marriage that they need help with, I would be shocked if 99, if not all 100 of them, had communication somewhere in their top 3. I bet you finances would be in there. I bet you intimacy would be in there, but I'm sure communication would be in the top 3 for most couples. And it was no different for us. Even after 7 years of marriage, we still didn't know how to really communicate really well with each other. And it's a tool that we all need to be successful as married couples. I remember taking you back to the story I was telling you at the beginning about the park. A couple of weeks later, my wife and I, and the great news, by the way, I got to tell you this: we eventually, that whole emotional affair that I communicated to you, it drove me to my knees. My wife and I sought help. We started studying the Bible. We became Christians. I was actually baptized, and then 5 minutes later was able to baptize her on the same stage for the forgiveness of our sins. It's a beautiful redemption story that God used for sure. Now we're helping married couples. So it's an amazing testimony for sure. But back to the communication, we had gone to a marriage therapist during the middle of this ordeal, and we're trying to get the help we need. And my wife is describing to the therapist how this has made her feel. She's lost a lot of weight. She had been stressed about our marriage and whether it was going to survive, whether we were going to lose each other, all that anxiety that comes with that. And the therapist asked my wife, how is Steve's behavior making you feel? And I remember she said, it's killing me. But at that time, I didn't recite those words. The therapist said, Steve, what did you hear your wife say? And I said, it's hurting her. And she stopped me. She said, no, Rebecca, tell him again how this is making you feel. And she said it the second time, no, it's killing me. And I was like, oh my gosh, it cut me to the heart. I have done that. My behavior has done that. My decisions have done that. And so, what that therapist was doing at the time that we didn't realize, she was teaching us the speaker listener technique, which is so powerful and effective that we help other couples with it now. It's where you get to communicate everything you feel, the raw, the ugly, just the raw emotions. And I, as the listener, take that in and thank you for sharing that with me. This is what I heard you say. Is there more? And it's not you statements, is this is the way this makes me feel. And so it lends itself to be less combative, but all the words are still being communicated. And that's such an important tool that we share with other couples. And it's so important for every couple to have healthy, vital communication. Listen, it's been my honor to share with you. There's so much more that I want to share with you, but we're running out of time. It's been great to be with you. You can learn more about me and what I do at stevewormer.com. And I want to share with you real briefly, we have an amazing marriage journal coming out. It's called Reigniting the Gratitude in Your Marriage. It's a 30-day marriage journal. The Kindle version is out on Amazon already, and the paperback is just waiting for Amazon to have it loaded in the next 24 to 48 hours. So that's on Amazon. And then you can also email me at booknow@stevewormer.com. It's been great to be with you this morning. Have a blessed day.